Welcome to Report from Our Bros. This episode is brought to you by Warwick Spice. Learn more at warwickspice.co.uk.
Hello and welcome to Reports from Our Bros. Our guest today enjoyed a wonderful 24-year career as a professional footballer, a top-class goalkeeper. He was on the bench for Liverpool in 2 European finals before moving to the Midlands, where he became a true Coventry City legend. He played over 600 games for the Sky Blues and helped them to FA Cup glory in 1987. After 16 years as a Sky Blues player, he joined the coaching staff and now a highly respected broadcaster with BBC Coventry and Warwickshire. Last year, he completed a 40-year connection with the Sky Blues. Ogrizovic's professional life has been as immersed as can be in football, yet his first sporting love has always been cricket. And today we're going to chat to Oggy about his lifelong love of cricket as an enthusiast, as spectator, and to quite a high standard as a player. Very warm welcome, Oggy. Your passion for cricket is deep and lifelong. So, how did it all start?
Back in the day, really, I think as kids, there was a lot less to do than probably what there is at the moment. No mobile phones, no video games, 2-3 channels on television. So, you had to fill the time, doing things outside. And generally speaking, from my point of view, I had a brother that was just a year younger than me. Most of our activities outside of school revolved around sport. And generally speaking, it was football in the winter, cricket in the summer. And we were lucky that we both shared, the same interests, the same passions for the sports. My brother was a very good cricketer footballer anyway. And a number of our friends that lived close by as well were also the same ilk. In fact, one of my best friends actually became a professional footballer around the same time as myself. So, although the number of people that we played with was limited, the standard was good. And as I say, as we shared the same interest, it was easy to get games going and improve along the way.
And you mentioned that there weren't too many TV channels around in those days. One of them, of course, the BBC showed live test matches. Were you one of the young lads that watched every minute?
Absolutely, I was. In those days, test matches started on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. There'd be a rest day on Sunday. There was some John Player League cricket on BBC Two at the time. And then it would, the test match would go on again on Monday or Tuesday. And yeah, I mean, we could very easily sit there and watch every single ball bowled. It was a passion that was not just about playing, but it was also about watching. And I think in those days, Brian, the same as football as well. You generally learn your trade by watching other people and practicing them and trying to almost imitate and copy what they were doing.
So would that be about in the era when Ian Botham was just getting into the side and David Gower?
Well, I'll go way before then. I go back to the late 60s, really. I mean, when people talk about, you always have heroes, don't you, in football, cricket. Certainly in cricket, my batting hero was Jeff Boycott. I was just in awe of the way that he could bat. He could, his powers of concentration, really. And, the ability that he had. And then as a bowler, I was more of a bowler myself. John Snow was my first hero. I used to love watching him come in and bowl. And he also did particularly well against the Australians in the late 60s, early 70s.
And who'd have thought that one day you'd have been bowling to Mr. Boycott, eh? But we'll come to that in a little while. So how did your cricket career take off, Oggy? Because obviously you became a professional footballer quite early on. How did the two dovetail?
I went to a comprehensive school, so there was very little cricket played in state schools at that time. Most of the real cricket, from the age to 11, to 16 and 17 was played in public schools. So the only way that, we got an interest in cricket was playing. We were lucky, as I say, I played with my brother and a few friends. We had a local pitch, football cricket pitch just up the road. And, we used to practice our cricket. And then when the cricketers came on, we used to watch them play. And we enjoyed what we did. We could watch them for hours. They would watch us play in practice. And that's really where the love of the game first came in. We dovetailed that with watching it on television. there was nothing from school. We were self-taught. We used to watch the local players practice, and we fetched the balls. And then, from that point on, once you fetched a few, thrown them in, occasionally because you'd done that, they'd let you bowl a few balls. And, then they realised, actually, these guys aren't bad. So you bowled a few more balls and a few more balls. And then after you'd done that, they might even let you bat for an over or two. And then when you showed them that you could bat a little bit, you got a little bit more. And all that added up to the point where eventually you ended up playing for their team. And I think my first ever game of football game of cricket was when I was 14 years old, playing for New Hucknall Colliery in Mansfield, where I was brought up. And 14-year-old, first game of cricket.
And as a fast bowler?
Yeah. In local cricket, I'd like to think, I could bat as well, and I got quite a few runs, but generally speaking, it was as a fast bowler, and as the standard got better, obviously I became more of a bowler and less of a batsman.
So then, obviously, you became a professional footballer, a full-time footballer. Did you have to have conversations with Chesterfield, first of all, wasn't it, and then Liverpool, about can I play cricket as well? Because, of course, back in the day, people used to play full-time both, Phil Neal and Chris Balderston and the likes of that. Did you have those conversations? Were they happy for you to play cricket and risk injury?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I was in a situation, so this would be mid-late 70s. I'd already had a season with Notts Colts, so there was a potential, the potential of signing for Nottinghamshire. And with football was a little bit different. I know it's not necessarily talking about football, but in my mid-70s, I was having trials for clubs, playing for my youth teams and everything. But when I used to go, they used to think as a goalkeeper, and this is crazy now when you think about it, but they used to say I was too big to be a goalkeeper. I was touching 6'5", and the majority of goalkeepers were around 6 foot, 6'1", 6 foot, some 5'11". And, I used to, when I'm thinking you're growing, you're tall, you're gangly, you're a little bit like Bambi on ice at times. And, I was told, particularly by my local football team, Mansfield, that I was probably a little bit too big to play football. So, when you hear those things, you tend to start believing it. And, I was thinking then, well, maybe I'm not going to be a footballer. Ended up joining the police force. Still love football, so I was playing a lot of it. But cricket as well, I was playing for Notts Colts. And to make some kind of comparison with the fact that they thought I was too big to play football, I played for Notts Colts, and I was quick, certainly for my age. But what they wanted was line and length bowlers, so I could be quick but erratic, and they wanted to slow me down and bowl line and length. And line and length wasn't my forte. It wasn't my book. And I could try and bowl line and length, slow down a little bit, but I was never quite as good doing that. So again, I felt that the things that were probably I was good at were being taken away from me. They weren't allowing me to bowl as quick as I could. And as a footballer, the fact that I was 6'5", couldn't do anything about that. It looked like I would be a professional footballer. So, it looked like both of those doors were closing almost before they'd started. Ironically, 10 years later in cricket, there was this thing that went out searching for a fast bowler. I think Bob Willis put his name behind it. It's a case of it doesn't matter what you like, bowl as quick as you can. England are looking for them. It's crazy how things, go full circle.
Mansfield said that you were too big to be a goalkeeper. They didn't get that one right, did they, Oggy? So that evidence would suggest. But I did notice, I think you played one game for Notts second 11 in 1981. Match figures of 4 for 27 in 22 overs, which is pretty decent. So you obviously took your chance when you played for the seconds. But
yeah, and I kept my affiliation with Notts. We're always close. I knew quite a few of the players. I was also playing quite a number of under 25 games for them. But by the time 1981 came, I'd already established myself that football was going to be my vocation, really. It goes back to 1977 when Chesterfield first signed me as a footballer, and then they moved to Liverpool. So it was nice that I could play both. And in those days, in those times, the football club didn't mind me playing cricket so long as it didn't interfere with what I was doing, football wise. And, I could dovetail the two quite well. And, that's one of the greatest things about growing up in that era is the fact that I could enjoy my football life and also, play cricket to a high standard as well.
And of course, at Notts in that era, I think that was when Mr. Rice and Mr. Hadley were in the team. The bar was quite high in the Nottinghamshire pace attack at that time, wasn't it?
For the minor counties, I played for Shropshire, but to be selected to play for the minor counties select 11 in the, I'm trying to think what it was then. Was it the Benson and Hedges Cup, was it? And it was a great honour. And then to find out it was against Notts, so, obviously I was born in Nottinghamshire, and it was at Trent Bridge. It was not a double, but it was a treble. It was brilliant for me. And it was also very bowler friendly at Trent Bridge in those days. I mean, Hadley, Rice were incredible bowlers, and I think the groundsman obviously produced seaming wickets. So it suited me on that particular day as well. And I remember enjoying the occasion. We very, very nearly won that game, by the way. We didn't score many runs, but I think if memory serves me right, about 140, 150. Yeah. Notts knocked them off for 6, and at one point we had them about 50 or 60 for 5, and it was only Richard Hadley that came in and got a good half century that got them over the line. But they were good times, and I bowled well that day, I remember.
Well, you took 2 for 21 in your 11, Oggy, and the stats of the day suggest it was a little bowler friendly. Richard had the 11 overs, 5 maidens, 1 for 8. And Clive Rice 5 for 28. But we'll come to one.
Well, I remember that. Just before you do, Brian, I remember those two bowling, and Richard Hadley was unplayable. He was moving the ball too much in the air and off the pitch. I mean, the thing, Clive Rice got 5 wickets. Richard Hadley bowled far better. It was incredible. I remember facing both of them when I came in at the end, and it was a great experience to face them. But again, Hadley, I didn't realise how quick he was actually, but when you're facing him, a lot quicker than what you think. Rice at the other end was a little bit easier, even though he got the 5 wickets.
It's interesting actually, just going off on a tangent, Oggy. These days, of course, the game has evolved so much, and you go at 5 and over in the championship sometimes. Even a bowler of Hadley's world class. Could these days, if he plays in a 50-over game, could he bowl 11 overs for 8 runs? I mean, would the batters... I mean, it's just a different world now, isn't it?
Well, it is. With the advent, shorter boundaries, the way the rules have changed, the bats have made a big difference as well. And the professionalism of the way cricket's played. You go back to my day, the first shot that you were ever taught is how to defend. Forward defensive, everything was straight, play it on the floor. The first thing you teach kids now is how to pull it into mid-wicket, how to attack, how to score runs. So the whole mentality in cricket for me has changed. So no, I don't think he would be as economical, but he'd certainly be as deadly. I mean, he could seam it, he could swing it, he could do anything with the ball. He would be the best or one of the best bowlers around now. If he was 40, 50 years younger.
Yeah. So let's just take you back, Oggy, to when you moved to Liverpool as a footballer. Of course, that's a wonderful move to a wonderful team. Did Bob Paisley or anybody actually say to you when you were talking to them, "What about the cricket? Did that come up?" Because of course,
yeah. They did talk to me about football and cricket, but the good thing is they were cricket fans as well, and they were quite interested in the fact that I played cricket with them. And we had quite a number of celebrity games against other clubs whilst I was there, and I used to always be in the team. They would actually play some part of it as well. They had absolutely no problem with me playing cricket at the time. I wasn't actually in the first team at the time. I was obviously understudy to Ray Clements, so my first team opportunities were limited. But no, in fact, when we came in, they'd often ask how the cricket went, and they knew I was playing. The one rule for cricket was the fact that you enjoy your cricket, but don't let it interfere with your football. Certainly don't get injured. Football comes first, obviously, and they were basically the rules. And it got a little bit as I went to Shrewsbury. Graham Turner, the manager at Shrewsbury, was the first person that came to me and said, "I think you should knock cricket on the head now." I was in the first team, and I said, "I don't think I can, Graham. I just love it so much." And he said, "Well, fair enough." He said, "But just remember this: if you get injured playing cricket, we're not paying you." So that was almost a little warming. And then as I went to Coventry, I played cricket throughout my Coventry career, but I had to be very, very careful once we got into pre-season about how much I played, where I played. And, although it didn't happen all the time, 'cause I did get injured occasionally playing cricket, but I never ever told the club.
It is interesting, isn't it? Because for a long, long time, people like Dennis Compton, Phil Neal at Balderston, Ted Hemsley, people played both for a number of seasons, didn't they? It was just accepted that you take
But
risk.
they did, but it was a little bit easier then because the football season was shorter.
True.
And so I think there was a defined split between when the cricket season started and the football season finished. And obviously, at the end, there may have been a 1 or 2 week lap over, but there are stories. I mean, we mentioned it before, didn't we, with Chris Balderstone and Phil Neal that played football and cricket almost the same day. Those days have long, long gone, obviously, and even now, I think it's absolutely impossible for a professional footballer to be able to play cricket as well.
But just go back to your career with the ball, Oggy. One of your, I would imagine, one of your more enjoyable days to recall is the game against Yorkshire for Shropshire when you bowled against your former hero, of course, Geoffrey Boycott, and Yorkshire were beaten. Tell us about that day.
I mean, I've been fortunate. I know what it's like to be a giant killer. That day proves it when, when Shropshire beat Yorkshire. I know what it's like to be on the other end when Sutton beat Coventry. So, I've experienced both. I mean, first and foremost, that day was it's very special to be able to bowl to Jeff Boycott. And, it's nice, you can see his forward defensive play at first and outstanding player, and as I say, I'm not sure I ever troubled him. He treated me with respect. If I bowled on the stumps, he'd work me down to fine leg. If I bowled short, he'd be looking to cut. But generally speaking, if you bowled well, he respected that and he'd back you back up the pitch. And he was a top player at the time, even then. But I didn't get him. I got Martin Moxon, who was around the England scene at the time. Got him caught at square leg, and it wasn't a particularly bowler friendly. It wasn't a pace bowler friendly wicket for us. I think we had a professional Mushtaq Mohammed at the time who did the damage. But it was a great experience to be part of the side that beat a first class county.
Yeah, Shropshire 229 for 5, Mushtaq Mohammed 80, Yorkshire 192. Boycott 27, then 3 wickets apiece for Mushy and Andy Barnard, of course, Ed Barnard's dad. Tell me, Ollie, did you sledge Jeff Boycott? Did you give him a bit of a hard time?
I had a hand in his dismissal, if I can tell everybody. So I was fielding it mid-off, and I think Brian Perry was bowling. And is it a ball deepish mid-off? So is it a ball to me? And it's travelling it a bit. So he's obviously going to get one. I've gone through it. And unfortunately, or as I tell people, I knew what I was doing. The ball went through my legs. Did that a few times in football. It went for 4. So instead of Jeff Boycott getting 1, he got 4, which meant he was facing the next ball. Brian Perry caught and bowled in the ball after. So, it was in the guts. I knew what was happening.
And of course, that victory over Yorkshire, Oggy, then was rewarded for Shropshire with a visit to Edgbaston in the second round of the NatWest Trophy.
Well, it did do, and that actually coincided with me joining Coventry City. I joined a month earlier. I had to get permission from Bobby Gould, who's a manager, actually, to play in that game because I think it was the first or second day of pre-season. But, as it was in those days, as I say, if it didn't interfere with football necessarily, they'd allow you. And Bobby said, yeah, it's a great occasion, go and play. So that's what I did. And it was brilliant to play at Edgbaston. We got well beat on the day, but it was a great occasion to be able to open the bowling at a county that have almost become a second county, really. I mean, I was born in Nottinghamshire, but I now watch Warwickshire a lot.
Warwickshire, of course, in those days had pretty decent batting lineup. Was it Alvin Kallicharran? You made short work of him, didn't you, Oggy?
He did. I'm pleased you mentioned Alvin Kallicharran because, and I know you're leading into it. I mean, he was one of my victims on the day, and I was delighted with that wicket because I think he'd scored over 1,000 runs by that time. I think it may have been the season where he scored 2,000 runs, so it was banging full, and he was a top flyer, and I remember bowling to him, and again, it was probably one of the best balls I bowled, really, or the best 2 or 3 balls I bowled at that level ever. I had Steve Gale, my Shropshire captain, at mid off, and I was bowling. Generally, I bowled away swing, and I was bowling in swing to it would be my away swing, but in swing to Calitran, who's a left-hander, and I bowled him. I decided to go with. Get this straight away, a couple of in swings. So, but I've taken it away from him. It would be outswing to College around. Setting this up well, Brian Elder, and he just left it disdainfully. And then I said to Gale, I said, I'm going to bowl him an in swing, and just changed the seam, bowled in swing. And he padded up again, straight in front of the LBW, and for considering the form and quality of play he was in, that was probably the best wicket I ever got that ever counted.
Sounds like a lovely piece of bowling. It probably always a good idea to pitch it up to Cali, wasn't it? Because my word, he could pull and hook, couldn't he? So
Well, thankfully, we never found out that day, but because what a batsman he was.
yeah. Just on the subject of the football, cricket, the differences. I mean, they are such immensely different worlds, aren't they? Both of which you've been part of. I mean, do you think is there anything? It sounds a bit of a fatuous question, but is there anything the cricket world could take from or learn from football, and vice versa?
Well, good question. I mean, listen, I think, different sports are always trying to learn off of other different sports. I mean, from a football point of view, I think we learned a lot from continental football. Certainly in the 90s, the way that they trained, the way that they lived the social life off the pitch. We probably enjoyed ourselves too much off the pitch. When the foreigners came into the country, we started to realise that we probably enjoyed ourselves too much. So it became more professional from that point of view. But certainly, when you looked at cricket against football, and we used to have, and I became friendly with a lot of the Warwickshire players, still are, some great bunch of lads. A lot of them played we used to always have a professional at Coventry and Warwick's, where, we had a lot of them, people like Neil Smith, Dougie Brown, Andy Moles, Michael Powell, Mike Burns. We had lots of them, so you became good friends with them. People like Tim Munton and Gladstone Small were all there is around the circle of friends. But Andy Moles, Coventry boy, he actually asked if he could come and do some training, close season training with Coventry. So he came in. I think it was on film. It was manager, and he came in and he had an off season where he'd come in and train a couple of days a week for us. And he used to enjoy it. Pretty decent footballer, by the way, Moles he was. And we used to then talk about the differences in the sport. And I used to always think, and cricket's a generation behind, I think, probably football, because when you look at it now, there's no stone left unturned. They're as fit as. They do a lot of work on fielding, particularly the batting. The way that they bat now is a lot different. We talked about having a forward defensive years ago, but now they can hit the ball. It seems to be 100 miles these days. I mean, it's incredible. But the one thing that they would probably take from football, I would have thought, really, is how to become a little bit fitter. I just remember in those days, I remember, in the, I think it was in some of the big games that you used to play. If you were batting, your fitness that day was just a few circles of the ground after. They'd go out and do a little bit of a warm up before and after. They were great exponents at what they did. They'd do plenty of work on the bowling and batting, but maybe the fielding and the all-round fitness was probably a little bit different. Socially, it was always into the bar with the fans after. I think when you finished a day's play, it was always around the drinks was there, in the changing room. So all those things are probably the great things to have. But, when you talk about professionalism and looking after your body, it probably don't go side by side. And I think cricket's learnt, I'm not saying necessarily from football, but from sport in general, about how to be a little bit more professional, how to look after your body.
Yeah, county cricket in back in the day, maybe the 70s and before then, I think the bowling was remarkable, wasn't it? Because sometimes I think the pre-match warm-up was a cup of coffee and a fag, and yet seamers used to bowl 800 overs a season, didn't they? They bowled themselves fit.
Well, they did, and that's the other incredible thing. When you look at the number of injuries now in football and cricket, you think that they're so professional. They do so much work in the gym now. The bodies are so strong. you wonder why there should be, we think, more injuries now than what there ever were. And there's two reasons for that. One, I think professionals played injured more often back in the day. But I think the other thing, I always liken it to elastic band, and the sports scientists might be able to explain this a lot better than I can. But, when you pull an elastic band really tight, that's when it's at its most powerful. That's when you get the very best out of it. But if you just pull a little bit too far, it snaps. And I think that's the same now with professional sportsmen. They are so well trained and they are so right on the edge in terms of, performance that, sometimes if you just extend it a little bit too much, do something not quite right, that's when injuries occur. And, you have to accept that with the high quality that you see these days in sport.
Let's talk about another interesting game that you played in, and a memorable as one, against Somerset for Shropshire again, Wellington. Richards, Botham and Garner in the Somerset side. One of it you dismissed almost, Oggy. Tell us about that.
Well, I did, yeah. I mean, again, I was enjoying bowling. It was a great honour to bowl at Viv Richards. I mean, at the time, he was probably the greatest batsman in the world. I did notice very early, if you bowled on the wicket, he flipped you through mid-wicket. If you bowled outside off stump, he could play you through cover to mid-off. So your lines had to be very good. But the ball was swinging at the time, and I've got a few going away, and I thought I'd bowl him an in-swinger. And I bowled him an in-swinger, and I've got a picture at home. It's a great picture of me bowling, and the leg peg is cartwheeling out the ground, and Viv Richards is there defending him. And Viv was playing a defensive shot as well. He wasn't going for it as well. I quickly thought, I've got the great man. And then you hear this shout of no ball with the hand out. And apparently I'd overstepped by millimetres. So that was, I won't say gut-wrenching. It was still nice to see that leg peg fly now. However, the wicket didn't count. But the one greatest thing happened, and this was probably a size of the man that Viv Richards is. He came over, we were having a drink in the bar, and he came over. He just said, "That was a great ball, by the way." He said, "Trust me, I never changed my shot," in his West Indian accent, which I can't do. He never had to say that, but he did. And, that was something that I'll always remember.
I noticed the umpires that day, Oggy, were David Shepherd and was it Shep that did
I don't think it was. No, I think it was the other end.
Tom Brooks, the Australian.
Yeah. You see, I've crossed him off the Christmas list, by the way.
Yeah. So Shropshire had a good side in those days, didn't they? And then you played for many years for Covent, North Warwickshire as well. And that was alongside playing for the Sky Blues, I guess.
Yes, it was. Yeah. I mean, talk about my Shropshire days. I mean, that really came along through playing for Shrewsbury. So I had 2 years at Shrewsbury. That's when I started playing for the minor counties there. And they were great times. Thoroughly enjoyed it. The fact that you were playing, counter teams in the NatWest, as it was then, every year was the icing on the cake, really. It was difficult to get as many games for Shropshire as I wanted, because the majority of their kid games came in the summer holidays when we were back pre-season training. So I could only play 1 or 2, games and a few one-dayers for them in a season, but they were highly enjoyable. And my opportunities, as you mentioned, when I joined Coventry, got less and less. I moved out of the county. The football was probably even more important. We were now First Division / Premiership as 92 came along. And it was, I really think the opportunity to be able to play there became less and less.
But you did enjoy club cricket with Bill around?
A fantastic time at Coventry and North Warwick's. I remember, we still talk about it now, still friendly with an awful lot of the players from that year. Brian Mills was captain. Roy Stokes after that followed in. Dave Robinson, who's been at the club forever, still is there. He's finished playing now, but he runs the club, and without him, the club would be in trouble. And we had some fantastic players along the time. I just had a brilliant time at, I'll say, at Covent Warwick's, all the teams that I played for, but certainly Coventry North Warwick, some fantastic times, and played with some great players. And a lot of those players, most of those players now are still big friends.
Oh, that's lovely, and that is cricket, isn't it? The bonds that you make over the years. I was at Binley Road actually not long ago, and it's just wonderful, wouldn't it be, to see Warwickshire play back in Coventry sometime? Whether that's possible or not, but Coventry's A big cricket city, isn't it? It's got a big cricket history.
Well, it is, and we used to host Warwickshire in a 3-day game back in the early 90s, I think it was. I remember Lancashire, Sussex, I think Middlesex as well. So, we had 3 counties, 3 years on the trot. We set the ground up brilliant. I mean, Commonwealth Warwick's Cricket Club is a lovely ground anyway. It's obviously in the middle of the city, but it's a beautiful ground. It's a nice, great to play football, and as I say, I think Warwickshire quite enjoy the times there.
Yeah, they did. I know that. I mean, you've spent an awful lot of time, Oggy, in dressing rooms in football and cricket. How different are they as environments?
I think in football you've got more. It's more of a working class game. I mean, we know that certainly footballers were not quite as well educated in terms of staying on in sixth form, obviously going to university or anything like that. In cricket, obviously it certainly in my day it was very much a public school game where most of the cricketers had come through that era. Things have changed now with academies, the way cricket's set up, and the opportunity to play cricket away from school now are a lot greater. But listen, dressing room humour, as the saying, regardless of whether it's rugby, football, or cricket, it's you have to experience it to understand exactly what it means. I mean, it's a big part of why you play the sports, and the camaraderie and the fun that you used to have in football and cricket are just the same. You had more time in cricket probably because the game was over a long period of time. When you were batting, obviously you were there, you were in the clubhouse. When it was raining, which most days it did rain, you were waiting for it to stop. So you had a lot of time to get silly games going, do different things. But regardless of whether, which sport it is, great times. And probably the reason why most people play.
And what would you say it gave you more exhilaration, Oggy, making a great save or knocking somebody's leg stump out the ground?
Well, that is a good question. You started this interview by saying which sport did you like best? I always, somewhere along the line, cricket's always held more of a passion for me, probably even than football. And I think probably that's the reason is because I played professional football, and because you play professional football, you can't enjoy it quite as much because you're only as good as your last game. It's your job. If you're not doing well, then you're out of a job, and you've got to find something else to do. I'm sure if it had been reversed and I'd have played cricket professionally, I may have swayed towards football because I would have played that socially and enjoyed that as well. So it's very, very difficult. I think I was just lucky I'm lucky that, I love both sports.
You had a fantastic football career. Does a tiny corner of you think, well, what if I'd gone the other route and gone for cricket and see what I could have achieved there?
Well, you never ever know. You don't know if you're going to be good enough. You don't know what would have happened. I'm happy with my lot. I've really enjoyed playing football, and I was lucky to play in an era, where you could actually mix the pair. I mean, as you say, you look at the Premier League now, and everybody says, "Wouldn't you like to be part of the Premier League now?" Of course you would. When you look at the advances that have been made, the football pitches that they play, the balls that everything is so much better. It's so much more professional, and of course the money is a lot better as well. But a big chunk of my life, the enjoyment that I've had, would have been taken away from me because I just have had and have so many good memories and so many good experiences of playing cricket.
Oggy, it's wonderful to chat. Thanks ever so much for your time, and all the best for yourself and the Sky Blues the rest of this season.
Reports from Arbroath is an Orion Creative Services production. To listen to more episodes, to read our blog, or to join our mailing list, please visit reportsfromarbroath.com.